In this episode, the RIAA is in a pickle over the Jammie Thomas ruling. Apple reports its best earnings ever. Gates says malaria vaccine could be ready in 3 years. And AMD unveils budget processors. QuickSurf Internet Media presents the Geekinator, talking about all things tech and geek. Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm your host Adrian, coming to you almost live from Studio C1 here at QuickSurf Internet Media in Phoenix, Arizona. This is Season 3, Episode 1 of the Geekinator podcast. The Geekinator podcast is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Do feel free to head on over to www.techpodcast.com. And if you like any of my shows, you'll certainly find other technology-related shows over there as well. Let's go ahead and get into the stories for this episode. From cnetnews.com, there's a story entitled RIAA in Pickle over Jammie Thomas ruling. This is kind of interesting. It starts off, the music industry will have to make some very tough choices within the next week about file sharer Jammie Thomas Rasset. The Recording Industry Association of America wants to put the Thomas Rasset affair behind it. The Brainerd, Minnesota mother who refused to settle with the RIAA for over $5,000 over copyright infringement allegations, instead fighting it out in court, has been found liable of willful copyright infringement by 2 different juries and was ordered to pay damages of $222,000 in her first trial, a decision that was later thrown out, and $1.9 million last June in her retrial. Well, what's happened since then is that the judge, Michael Davis, made what some experts would consider a legal precedent by reducing the jury awarded amount by 97% down to $54,000, which he says, in his words, was still significant and harsh. Basically, what this amounts to is it's unprecedented that after damages are awarded by a jury, that a judge would come in and say, you know what, that seems like too much. I'm going to cut it down to this other, whatever amount the judge picks. So the RIAA has 7 days to decide whether or not they want to fight it. They're kind of in a pickle by the simple fact that the whole legal suing thing that they started doing, they've discovered, shockingly, that it's hurt their business. It's been bad for them. It's totally ruined their reputation in the eyes of their customers. And so, you know, they would love nothing more than to just make the Jammie Thomas case go away, but they probably won't do that for the simple fact that there's been some unprecedented legal maneuvers by the judge, and if they let it slide, this could open the door for a whole other ball of wax. So we'll be keeping an eye on this to see what happens with it. From USA Today, there's a story entitled "The Mac is Back, Apple Reports Its Best Earnings Ever." And essentially what this is Apple has had the best quarter it's ever had, despite the fact that they've been going up against the Windows 7 launch. Basically, the iPhone saw sales increase of 100%. Their Mac computer sales were up 33% from the year before. The iPod Touch rose 55%. And their revenue was $15.7 billion for the holiday quarter, and earnings of $3.4 billion. So the year ago quarter saw $11.9 billion in revenue and $2.3 billion in earnings. So it's been quite a ride for them, and we'll see what happens with it as things continue on. From BBC News, Gates says malaria vaccine may be ready in 3 years. Mr. Gates is a key campaigner against the disease, which kills 1 million people a year, most of them children. Well, he has told the BBC that a vaccine for malaria could be just 3 years away. Since it was formed, his foundation has spent billions of dollars in the fight against malaria. Just like smallpox, Gates believes that the disease can be eradicated, but as of yet, there's no vaccine. However, he says a breakthrough is near, so we'll be keeping an eye on this just to see what happens with it. From Information Week, AMD has unveiled some budget processors. Advanced Micro Devices on Monday introduced 3 sub-$100 processors for budget Windows 7 desktops. 2 of the chips are Athlon 2 processors, and the third is a Phenom 2 chip. AMD also unveiled 2 quad-core desktop CPUs that cost more than $100. But the less than $100 ones is the Athlon 2 X2 255, and it runs at 3.1 gigahertz. Its thermal design power is 65 watts, and you can expect those to cost about $74. The other 2 budget chips include the triple-core Athlon 2 X3440, which has a TDP of 95 watts and a clock speed of 3 gigahertz, and a dual-core AMD Phenom 2 X2 555 Black Edition with a TDP of 80 watts and a clock speed of 3.2 gigahertz. Those chips cost $84 and $99 respectively, and the new quad-core products include the Athlon 2 X4 635 and the Phenom 2 X4 910E, which are $119 and $169 each. So we'll see how well these go with Windows 7 as soon as they're available, and we'll keep you updated. From Make Magazine, there's this really cool blog post they have here. It's entitled Contractor, Open Source Hardware That Makes Things. It's a DIY open source construction set for experimental personal fabrication, desktop manufacturing, prototyping, and bootstrapping. Various Cartesian robots can be assembled from Contractor and used as a prototype platform for projects such as an XY plotter, a mini CNC machine, 3D printer, etc., etc. Essentially, this is like an erector set on steroids. You can use this to make a lot of different stuff, and it's computer controlled and that sort of thing. So pretty neat. If you're into that sort of thing, check it out. From CNETnews.com, there's a story entitled Xerox hopes to print computing smarts on fabric and plastic. In conjunction with a conference in Europe this week, Xerox has announced a new ink technology for printing electronic circuitry on everything from clothes to roll-up computer displays. Xerox processes use ink containing silver metal that can be used to wire up processing circuitry. It works on surfaces such as plastic that earlier have shown an inconvenient tendency to melt under the high temperature of liquid silver. Xerox's process works with an ink compound with a much lower temperature, the company said. So this is kind of cool. They have a picture up where they've got this really tiny circuit board, and it's printed on this flexible plastic sheet. And the guy's flexing it in his fingers. It's pretty neat. Eventually, you'd expect to see this in clothing and stuff, where your clothing would have circuitry or maybe some sensors that monitored how much you're sweating or that sort of thing. So it'd be pretty interesting to see what comes of this as they develop this a little bit further. That'll pretty much do it for this edition of the Geekinator. You can visit us on the web at quicksurf.com. You can also shoot me an email at geekinator@quicksurf.com. You can get a hold of me at twitter.com, twitter.com/Adrian_Bacon. I've also got a bevy of other ways to get a hold of me online if you want to leave a comment. And with that, I thank you for watching this episode of the Geekinator, and I will talk with all of you on the next episode. See you then. Bye.